Hi all, I'm Linda and welcome again to my channel. Today we're going to talk about respecting other people's journey. This is a subject that is dear to my heart because it is something that I still struggle with on a pretty regular basis. I have a pretty hard time sometimes accepting and understanding that other people's journeys are different than mine, and therefore they will react to things or behave differently than I would in the same situation. And I think this happens a lot because for some of us, or a lot of us that have been on this journey, the spiritual journey or the self-development journey for a very long time, oftentimes we have the skill to perceive other people's souls, other people's energy, and actually perceive aspects of that person that sometimes they don't even know they possess themselves, right? So it's fairly easy oftentimes for me to meet someone when I connect with someone and really connect to the purity of who they are as a soul, as a spiritual being, and see what they're capable of doing, right? All of the potential that is available. And sometimes in doing that, because it's such a natural experience for me, I forget that the other person may not necessarily, I keep looking over there like there's someone there. There isn't, it's just, I don't know, something I'm doing right now. But anyways, one of the things we seem to forget, right, that other person may not even be aware that they have the capacity for those things, or they have those capabilities or those skills or that potential. And it can be a pretty scary and invalidating experience for the other person. So it is something that I am really working very hard and trying to be very conscious about in my dynamics and my interactions with people, not just people in my life right now, but people as new people come into my life. I'm trying to be very conscious of remembering that just because I perceive something in someone doesn't mean that that they're going to develop that skill or develop that potential, or that they even are aware that they have that potential. And I think what happens is, this is not something that I or others, I think a lot of people do this, but it's not something that we do out of malice, right? It's not anything we do to hurt the other person or to make the other person uncomfortable. It's simply something that we do because we see all that greatness and we want to help them, right? We want to help them develop that potential. We want to help them heal. We want to help them integrate. We want to help them do all those things because we've been there before, right? We've done a lot of our own work, and we've learned some skills that can be used and some gifts that can be harnessed to make that process easier, and we want to share that with them because we want it to be as easy as possible for them. But what we seem to forget along the way is that person, like I said, they may not even be aware of their potential or those gifts or those capabilities, but beyond that, they may not be wanting, willing, or even in a place where they can receive that information. And by trying to drag them along that journey, we're really just disrespecting their process, and to some degree invalidating where they are at that particular point in time. Again, I am very clear, and I want to make it clear to everybody that we're not doing this out of malice, right? We're actually trying to help them. But because I've become so aware of that in my own life, I did want to share that in this video, that we need to remember that our process is not someone else's process. Our life experience is different than other people's, even if it's similar, even if it is very similar. We are different individuals, and the way we process our own trauma, the way we process and perceive our own experiences varies greatly from person to person. And therefore, even though we both may have, myself and that other person may have the same experience or may be on a similar journey, that doesn't seem that their perception of themselves or the journey is going to be the same as mine. So it is important that us as, beings, seekers, and, beings and humans that are in our own development journey, remember that everybody has to go at their own pace and do it in their own time. I mean, we wouldn't expect, my dad is in his 70s, in his mid 70s, and he walks with a cane. I and you wouldn't expect him to run the Boston Marathon, right? You wouldn't even expect him to walk the 26.5 miles of the Boston Marathon. That's just not something that he's capable of doing at this time. It doesn't mean that he wasn't capable of doing it at a previous time, and it doesn't mean that he's not going to be capable of doing it in the future. But at this point in time, that is not something that he is physically capable of doing. And it's really no different when we're talking about the spiritual and or self-development journey. That we need to remember that everybody has to do it at their own pace, and we need to respect that. And I think one of the things that happens, and I'll speak for myself, and by the way, this is not just limited to romantic partners, right? Romantic relationships. This is something that can happen, and in particular for me happens across all my relationships, you know, friendships, professional, etc. But it can be particularly insidious when it comes to romantic relationships. And I will, again, like I do in a lot of these videos, use myself as an example. Oftentimes when I meet a man that I'm interested in and where we're developing a connection or a relationship, or however you want to label it, what happens is I can see the capacity and the potential that they have, particularly if it's someone that is interested in, in seeking and in self-development and in spirituality. I can see and feel the energy and feel their capacity for growth and for development. And just because I've been in that position and I've experienced something similar, I want to help them along, right? I want to try and make it as easy for them as I can. And it's like, oh, look, so you're going through this and I went through something similar and this is what I did and this is the skills that I use and it helped me and blah, and this is how I did it and all that stuff. Like I said a minute ago, not everybody is ready for that. Not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants your advice. Not everybody wants your suggestions or your tools, etc. And what we need to remember, again, we don't do it out of malice. We actually are doing it because we want to help the other person. But that person, and oftentimes what I find is that people that are sharing their journey, their trauma, their pain with you, a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, what they're wanting is your presence. What they're wanting is to share with you and for you to be present with them and hold space for them. And for those of you who don't know what hold space means, is the term that is often used in the spiritual community, but it is just basically means listen and be present for someone. And oftentimes what people are looking for is for you to hold space for them, for you to listen to them, for you to be present with them, and for you to validate their experience or validate their emotions. They're not always looking for advice. So one of the things that I'm trying to implement in my life now, and I'm trying to be very conscious about, is to remember that. And that when people come to me to share an experience in their journey or share their journey, what I try to do is, if I have an experience that is similar, I will share my own personal experience. And then if I have any suggestions or advice that I feel that I can give, or a way that I feel I can help that person make that journey easier for them, then I will ask if they want my advice. I will ask if they want my suggestions. Now don't get me wrong, like I said at the beginning, I still struggle with this, and it's not something I do all the time. A lot of times I forget. I get overly excited about the fact that we're sharing or we are experiencing something similar, and I start, sharing and potentially giving advice. But it is something that I am trying. It is something that I'm trying to be more present with. It's something that I'm trying to be more conscious about, because I understand, I sometimes get really cranky when I'm trying to share something and people are giving me unsolicited advice. So I assume it's also, and I know it's also the same for others. So I am personally trying to be more conscious about that, which is the reason why I wanted to do this video. Now, the other thing that I want to mention here is that it's also important for us to be conscious about what we are gaining from giving this person advice or from having this person engage in this journey with us. And what I mean by that is, right, like I said before, when we want to give advice or we want to give suggestions, we definitely generally want to help that person. We're seeing the potential. I keep looking over here like there's so much here. Anyways, it's driving me crazy because I can see myself, I can feel myself doing it. But anyways, we can see the potential in that person, right? And we want to share, we get excited, we want to share our experience, we want to help them out. But I would suggest that we all do, which I've done myself, is to also look into why do we want to help that person, right? Why is it so exciting for us to share our experience? And there's the part that just makes perfect sense, right? Oh, we are sharing something similar. We're having a similar experience. But when I looked deeper into it, and did some process work around it, one of the things that I found is that for me, there is that piece, right? There is the excitement that I get to share my experience, but that I also get to, moving forward, share my self-development journey, my spiritual journey with that person as we go along. So what I'm trying to do is drag that person into my journey too, so that we can journey together rather than each of us journey individually. So now again, there's no malice there, right? It is a very normal emotion for humans to want company, to want to share. We are social creatures. That's the way we are designed by nature. However, what we need to remember is that it is important for us to respect the other person's journey and to respect that that other person may not be there now and may not ever get there and may not be wanting or willing to do that as well. So that's really what the purpose of this video was. I hope this was helpful to you. And as always, if you have any questions or any other comments, concerns, any suggestions that you want to add, please feel free to put it in the comments. And I will see you next time. Thank you very much for your attention, and namaste.